Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Every day, check in. And we try to check in with each other every day. I mean, it's not specific to grief, but it kind of is. I mean, that's kind of the elephant in the room every single day. So when we check in with each other, we try to do it every day. I don't know that there's many days that we don't, but making it
unless I'm being mad.
Yeah. And
I'm
I
talking to you today.
realized too, I used to get really defensive. I still do sometimes. I'm trying to learn how to give her the space to be angry and be upset with me without making her wrong for feeling that way.
Welcome to Female Voices, Life and Loss, a podcast dedicated to women from all walks of life. Whether you're navigating through loss, seeking growth, or simply looking for a place to feel understood, you've come to the right space. Each week, we provide compassionate guidance, share diverse stories, and offer practical advice to help you heal, grow, and thrive. No matter where you are on your journey, we're here to walk with you. Let's grow together.
Hello and welcome to Female Voices Life and Loss. This is Teresa and
LaWayna Berry.
And yeah, we have a special guest. I hope you heard that. Josh Berry is with us.
Uh-huh.
Yes, same last name, husband and wife. So they're coming on. They're joining me today, or he is joining us today, but really they're coming on as a couple because it is Bereaved Parents Month. And so I wanted to have a conversation really with both of them to talk about just grieving the loss of their son. It's not been very long ago, and for their anniversary date of that loss will be coming up shortly. And so we're going to just talk about how parents grieve together, separately, and just see where this conversation leads. So the audience knows LaWayna and I. Josh, I want you to share with the audience, who is Josh Berry, besides being LaWayna's husband?
I don't know. You want like job interview style?
Tell it to us all. You can tell us about job. Yep.
The profile that I got wife to snag on the internet dating site that we met on.
Plenty of fish, yeah. The free one, the most of all of them.
Yeah, so for the listeners, if you haven't listened to that episode, it was one of the ones in the beginning of how they met. So it's a good one to listen to. Thanks for the reminder for me how you guys met.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, I work I'm in the car business. I'm in the car industry, and I'm a finance manager for a car dealership. 47 years old. I've had a lot of challenges in life myself with drug addiction, poverty. Grew up in a home full of drugs and poverty. In prison for 6 years started when I was 19, got out when I was 25 years old. So just trying to become who I am, has just been overcoming challenge after challenge and reinventing myself time after time, outgrowing the old me over and over again and shedding that which wasn't serving me anymore to become more than I was. And I've been just doing that for 47 years now.
I love just what you said there, that you are overcoming and becoming who you are, who you were meant to be, and just what you've been through already. And I think, just for the listeners, I think that's something that's common, that guys, especially more than women, just say, they get caught up in things that, what do they say sometimes when the guys say, watch this, you know that there's something crazy going to happen. Something's going to go on. So I give you kudos and congratulations for overcoming those things from such a young age and now being where you're at today. Just that piece of it and becoming who you are meant to be. I love that. I love that you said that. So thanks for joining us. And we won't, unless you want to, dive into that a lot. But I really want to talk about just things as a couple, as bereaved parents. So, Josh, if you will share with us a little bit about your son that you guys lost, who he was, because maybe this is the very first time someone's listening and they haven't heard all the previous episodes that LaWayna has talked about him. Can you share a little bit about Joshie?
Yeah, well, Joshie was a miracle. He wasn't supposed to have ever been conceived according to medical science, and he was. He wasn't supposed to have survived very long after he was born, but because of medical science, he did. So he was just a miracle. He smiled every time someone looked at him and he caught someone's eye, he smiled. And it was an automatic thing. It wasn't something someone taught him. He did it since as long as I can remember, since he was weeks old, not even months. As soon as he could see, when he saw someone's face, he smiled. And it didn't matter what that face looked like. That face could be white. That face could be black. That face could have warts on it or weathered, or I mean, he smiled at people that I found it hard to smile at, and he made everyone feel special by doing that. And so, yeah, he was really a miracle.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm sure it was, besides seeing, just hearing a voice, it sounds like it would perk him up and bring him joy at such a young age. So that's beautiful. It says a lot about who he was, for sure. So I appreciate that. So I don't know if you guys, if you want to talk a little bit about how old Joshie was when you lost him, and then just how you're have been navigating this grief. We've always talked about grief is different for each other, and I'll let you guys decide who's going to share what. How old he was, and anything else that you want to share about that, and then we'll go more into the grief piece of it.
So Joshie was 3 years old when he died. He died around my birthday, and I found out that I was pregnant around my birthday. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing. But prior to that, like May and June and July, the last year of his life, he really started just blossoming. He gotten really good with his coordination. So he still needed some help getting his strength up, but he can speak as well as a 6-year-old, and he was 3. Just very clear. And he was always smart. Like, he was just super advanced, I felt, the whole time he had been here. Like I said, a couple of months before he passed, he just was able to start doing a lot more things. He got into video games at the arcade and never wanted to leave, and I spent like $20 on this game. But he was really, really having a good time. The week before he passed was just like, he had like the best week of his life. He was finally big enough to start playing in the trampoline, playing with other kids. He had finally gotten coordinated enough too to try to keep up with everybody. His speech, because he had water in his ears all the time, his speech had just improved like overnight after having surgery. Like, he was living, kind of the best life he, had ever had up until that point, because he was just able to do. So his world became bigger, because he was just able to do so many things, So
he could see because he had his glasses on. So yeah, he was experiencing life a lot better.
time. So, and I could finally start to let love not be such a hyper, because he had those medical conditions. So that's kind of the hard part, because he worked really hard and I worked really hard to get him, to where he was. So that was hard, but he had a great time right before.
Good. And that probably, I don't know, there's nothing that gives you, I guess, total peace, but maybe a little bit knowing that he did have some really good months, weeks before, and you can remember those accomplishments and those challenges that he had overcome. I mean, that might not be how you feel, but I feel like, well, I love that you had those times with him, for sure, and that it was close to your birthday. That was kind of a bittersweet. So, share what kind of have been the challenges as parents together grieving the loss of your son at the beginning, and those challenges maybe been different at the beginning than they are now. But let's start with at the beginning. What were some of the difficult, challenging parts for each one of you? And because we know that they were different in grieving the loss of Joshie.
Well, I mean, the good Lord saw fit to prepare us, I think, for something like this, because with her training and her relationship with God, my relationship with God, right after it happened, I didn't feel comfortable making decisions, and luckily, it's a place where I had been before when I decided to get sober. I had to surrender what my mind was creating for me, the actions that it wanted me to do, because I couldn't trust them anymore. And so I had some experience with that. I had a community already built and already set in place to help me through that. So I would, if there's parents looking at this that experiencing grief, I can tell you that was an invaluable resource for me, was the people, because I didn't have to do too much thinking. My thinking was miswired. I didn't, even thinking back, I don't even remember much of that 2-3 months after it happened, because my head was just so scrambled. And having a community that had my back and didn't want to see me fail or crumble or anything like that was an invaluable resource for me at the time. Without that, I don't know what could have happened, what damage and destruction I could have created, because I had already created enough damage with the incident itself. And I knew that creating any more damage wouldn't help, even if I thought it would. And I didn't trust my decisions. So I knew I might make a decision that I thought would be helpful, and it would actually be damaging. And so just finding a place that I didn't have to risk that, and having that already set in place again was huge. It was huge.
Who were those people that supported you and helped you with those decision making?
I have a sponsor through Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
And I have a lot of friends through that community. And we take the responsibility for each other to help each other through those types of situations. And before this happened to me, I had been involved with helping men through situations, and so I knew exactly where to go, and still do whenever a situation pops up that it's too heavy for me to handle myself.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is the support of other people at the beginning was beneficial to you, that you needed that support. You needed people to help you with some decision making because you felt very scrambled and confused, which is very common for you to experience that, for sure. So you feel like that was the beginning. With that, though, did just talking to them, was that did you feel like that was part of the healing, the grieving that you were feeling, that they were helping you through that process, or just being a support for you? Because I think that parents and people can be around you to just hold space for you, which is good as part of the support, but then you need other people that really can work with you, because it is solely up to each one of us to work through our grief. Were they helping you process like all of the things that were going on?
Helping me process is what we do in general.
Okay.
That was
okay.
That was just. I mean, it's a heavy thing that not many people have experienced, or so it was another thing that. But that's what we do. Yeah, we help each other process. Good. Because when we're experiencing something, we're experiencing it through our own perception.
Yes.
And so what we found is that it's a valuable resource to tap into outside perceptions of a situation, because we can see things, we can be aware of things through other people that we can't be aware of ourselves through our limited perception. So, just utilizing that as a tool during that time was invaluable. But it's a tool that I've used before then and I still use now.
Good. So, LaWayna, what would you say would be the beginning? Where was grief? How was grief? How did you work through that beginning grief processing?
For me, my son died on Thursday. I was in my therapist's office on Saturday.
Okay.
It's like, I got to do it healthy. I got to move through it in a healthy way. It's very important to me because I do still have one biological son here and I have 2 bonus kids here. And so it's very important to me to show them how life can knock you down, but you can keep going. We did join a grief group together as a couple.
Nice.
So we did do that. I ended up starting my own grief support group as a way to get my extended family into some sort of grief support, because during that same year, my family had 8 other deaths. And would go on to have 3 more after my son passed within the months. So I wanted, opportunity to kind of, talk it out, get it out, however we can. So that was a part of purpose, giving me some sort of purpose, since I don't have a toddler anymore. And my oldest son is 22. So it gives me some purpose. I did go to work. At that time, I worked remotely for my son because he was so little. So I went into school and I worked with kids that would have been his age. But, most people may have thought that was hard. It wasn't. Just seeing little babies, there's a light in them. So it was helpful to me to have somebody else who needed me, to give me some kind of purpose for that first year afterwards. It's really important.
When did you go together to the support group, and what kind of support group was that you guys did together?
Grief share. It was just a grief share group.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that, and then I went to a grief share, surviving the holidays, those kind of support groups.
Okay.
And I joined BJC had a parent group, a parent child loss group. that kind of opened the door to the community of other people that are bereaved moms and bereaved parents. That was kind of co-ed, and then I went to one specifically for moms that was really, really helpful and therapeutic.
Good. Well, I hear you both saying, and I want to just reiterate this to the audience for sure, that Josh and LaWayna are both saying that they needed support, and they went and sought out a place to get that support from other people, knowing that it was something that they could not do alone, I guess is what I'm hearing. And I want to make sure that the audience hears that it's super important when you're grieving. And I'm going to say, especially as a couple together, the grieving a child, to make sure that you're finding that other person outside your marriage that can support and help you process. Many, many times, and I say this many times, is you have to have those outside people. It's great to lean on each other and have support of each other, but as a married couple, many times we're a little more guarded. We don't share everything because we don't want to hurt that other person or burden that other person. So it's super important, which you both did. So that's amazing that you did that really so quickly too. I love that. You guys have experienced a lot of grief in your life. What surprised you with the grief of your son? Was that different? I think I know the answer to this, but was that different? I want you guys to share with us, different than other grief that you experienced. So the grief of a child.
For me, it's a complicated grief.
Okay.
Because like my husband talks about the incident, he's responsible for our son's death. Not like he's a psychopath or anything like that. Just a simple accident mistake that many other parents or moms or whoever have done. But for me, it made it more complicated. And I've said this on many podcasts before, God gave me that vision and it played out the same way. But it's complicated because my son looks identical to my husband. So certain faces he makes, certain gestures, I see my son. And I'm a mama bear. So I'm going to get angry. Like, you weren't paying attention. You weren't doing this. You weren't doing that. So he looks like, I tried to tell him to slow down. So there's me working through my own issues around that. And then we are polar opposites. He's in AA. I'm in God, church, therapy. We need to do it this way. And his is completely different. So it was just all those challenges. And then we have our blended family in the mix. And then his ex-wife was trying to get him back at the same time. So it's just like,
oh my goodness.
There's so many layers. So me and him, we bump heads because I'm like, these are all the things that I'm dealing with that I try to prevent. And I'm sure his side is he's dealing with the grief as well and the guilt, and shame too. So it's making challenging, for us to try to heal with so many, with so many layers to it, from my aspect.
What do you think, Josh? How was this different? The grief of your child different from other grief that you've experienced?
I can't say that I know how to answer that. I don't know. More intense, I guess, would be the thing that pops up. I mean, it's the most intense grief I've ever felt.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of grief. I mean, I've had to grieve a lot of things. So it was almost numbingly painful.
Okay.
So painful, there wasn't any more room for any more.
As a parent, you want to be a protector, and I have my own guilt. Like, I should have just did it, or I should have been there, or I should have been better, or I should have done this different, that different. But at the end of the day, I did what I thought was best.
That's all you can do.
I'm a lot more mature during this grief than I was in past griefs, as far as what to do. You know, I mean, things are happening, and how we react to the things that happen. I just in a more mature place compared to in the past when things have happened, and I chose to blame the thing instead of take responsibility for where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said this was more intense. So when you said that, I'm going to just say, I'm assuming that the others were not, so you handled those differently. And this one was definitely harder. Was that because you didn't really deal with the other ones as you?
I think
I don't know.
Earlier, like I just am a different version of myself than I was during those other groups, you know.
Okay.
So shedding some of the old habits, responses, reactions, to become someone who reacts, responds differently.
Okay. And LaWayna, you had talked about, of course, you're both different, very different, polar opposites, I think were the words that you used. With that, I mean, it's very common for couples to grieve very, very differently. And many times I hear couples say about their spouse, they're not grieving right. They're not grieving at all. And it's because we're not seeing, and they're not grieving like us. So how did you navigate that? Are you still navigating that? Josh, do you ever say, or maybe Wayna, like, he's not grieving, she's not grieving, because I don't see them grieving the way that I feel that they should be grieving. How do you kind of navigate that? Is that been happening? Or did it happen at the beginning and it's better now?
I don't know that it's better now, but it did happen. And mine looks different from his. Mine is just like quiet. It's kind of one of those kind of things. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. So I don't need to tell you about my grief today because I've said the same thing, 20 other days or whatever. So I'm just going to be quiet and be to myself. And so then he might poke and be like, you're not talking, you're not connecting, those kind of things. Then we bump heads because I'm like, you already know what I'm grieving. You already know what's going on. So we bump heads. The thing, and I know I definitely have said, like, grieving, you're walking around like nothing happened, because that is how he did at home. That's who he is. And then he says later, well, I don't grieve because I got a support group. I talk to them. And I'm like, but you're not helping our family learn how to grieve. Because we have younger kids. Right now we got 22-year-old, 16-year-old, and about to be a 12-year-old. Okay. I don't know that any of them seen him ever cry. They may have, because I'm not around all the time or whatever. But it's just, it's complicated because I got my thoughts, he got his thoughts. He does share more when he's sad about Joshie and things like that.
Good. I was just going to say, Josh, because I have talked to men and they do grieve, they just don't necessarily grieve in front of their spouse, significant other. How would you say that you grieve, and do you grieve at other times away from the home?
Yeah, I mean, grief for me now has taken kind of depends on what your definition of grief is. What does grief look like? When we say the word grief, what does that mean? What does grief mean?
what does that mean to you is what I would say, because I could give you a definition of it, but it's different for everyone. So what is...
So for me, grief is not being okay with what has been lost. And so as a practice, I try to understand that being present with what is, which is the only thing that's real, I have to accept what is. And anything that isn't, if I'm not okay with what is, then that's grief. That's me creating suffering behind, the version of reality that I want is not here. So I'm not okay with the version of reality that I'm left with, and that's grief. And as a practice, I try to avoid that just because it's insane. It's insane. So when grief pops up, I understand that what it is that I'm not okay with the way things are. And that becomes now the problem that I work on. What is it about now that I'm not okay with?
Okay.
And when I identify those things that I can't control, I can't change, I can't do anything about, Joshie's death is one of those things, then I have to ask God to be at peace with what is, with the way things are, because the only thing that can bring me out of that is my version. And if my version looks better than God's version, then I would be God. So I'm not God. So I'm faithful that God has a better version of reality than what I have. Mm-hmm. And so that conflict, I bump into that every day. I bump into that conflict every day, that things are not the way I want them to be. And I have to understand that that's my responsibility to understand that that's what's causing that. And so once I get through it, I let it pass. I let it come, and then I let it go. I don't fight it. I allow it to come. I feel it, and I allow it to pass. And I don't build a story around it that wants to keep me in a state of being that is undesirable. And crying and feeling emotional, those are not undesirable states of being. Those are very loving. They're not destructive. They don't hurt anybody. So, when I experience those times, when I think about my son, I look at pictures and videos and spend time thinking about him. I don't call that grief. That's just where I want to be at that time. I want to be with my son, and I can't, and I mourn that.
Mm-hmm. So you said grief is when you're not okay with the situation. It's kind of what I got. So when you're in that space, what do you do to get through that?
Well, if I can, I just explain kind of the mechanisms that I use to get myself out of those states. But if I can't do it, then I know that I'm not seeing it right, and I need help.
Okay, so you go to other people for that. It's not something that women, we do things like meditation, breathing, talking to other people. There's things that to help support their self. Talking to other people is a big piece, but there's other things, meditation, prayer, like I said, deep breathing. There's other things. Do you have any of that kind of stuff? I'm curious as a man. I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, as a practice, I do that every morning. Every morning,
okay.
I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for.
Okay.
So that I can experience what a state of gratitude feels like. Because I know that sometime during the day, I'm going to need to recreate that state of gratitude. Because here's the thing that I learned about gratitude is you can't be angry and feel gratitude at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
There is only one time, and the time is now. There's no other time. So if I find myself in the present moment feeling, a way that I don't want to, then I know how to create a sense of gratitude because I do it regularly every morning. I spend about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour meditating and writing down gratitude lists and praying. And that's an every morning thing. And that I did that morning, the morning that I forgot my son in the car and went to work. And he sat in the car and died, and I didn't know he was in there until 5 o'clock that afternoon. That day, I did all of those same things. And so it's not, it's not like, it's just become a practice for how to regulate my emotional state and, have a little bit more control over how to react when things happen.
Yeah, just hearing him just even describe that day. I can't ever talk about that day my son died without any emotion. Like this, I just can't.
And I get that.
No,
and it takes a lot of practice.
I didn't say anything about you. I was talking about me. Because that's how hurtful, that's how much I grieve him, that I cannot even talk about that day without any emotion. Like it's 100 degrees outside and no big deal. So, but that's the difference between me and him. He can talk about it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I cannot. I'm like, no, this is what happened. This is what I tried to do before. This is what I got to give all the background and all of it. And it's just, so it doesn't, to me, look like grief when he says it like 1, 2, 3, and then I pull myself out. And I'm just like, what are you, like, are you kidding me? Like you didn't, that image is not in your head of that little body. So it's just, and that could be something that just men do, compartmentalize. I took it out, I looked at it, I put it back in, I shut the door. And it just is a struggle for me. It is.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a perfect example of how men and women, couples, grieve very differently. And this is exactly what many couples are going through. And I love that we're talking about this, and I'm sorry it's kind of put a little difficulty on the two of you, maybe.
No.
But I want you to know that this is important for others to hear, that what they're going through is common, it's real. I know the two of you are working through that, and you're working hard. Your faith is strong, and you're working through some of that. There's still going to be difficult times ahead because you are different people, polar opposites, you said. And so I think it's good that you're sharing this with the audience. It's important for others to know not to be isolated, that they're not alone, that what they're feeling is common. I can give some suggestions because I have, like Josh wants to talk to you about it. And I know with other couples that I talk to and work with, they set aside a time every day that they talk about their grief with each other. And it could just be a half hour, could be 15 minutes, but there's that common grief conversation every day. Even if somebody says, I don't want to talk about this, it's part of their routine daily to speak about their grief together, even if it's just a little bit.
And I am being transparent. So
yeah.
People,
I love that you are.
But you said some key things. rituals, time together. My husband would work 70, 80 hours. So there were not any rituals for our connection. And I'm not saying for lack of trying, because he did. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying our lives, because he works so much out of the house, our life is more of a roommate situation. And so I kind of point that connection missing as kind of the beginning of the disconnect. And he's gone so much outside the home, because he even said to me once, I don't worry about Joshie because I know you got him. And so I can't have him 20. So there should have been more thought around him, because I'm not a silo. I'm in a partnership. I'm not an only parent. So that care for him and that consideration for him and concern should not have been mine the whole totally. So those rituals, I definitely feel created some of that disconnect. And then he was working a job that was very, very stressful. And I don't think, to his detriment, I don't know that he knew how stressed he was during that time. So, but daily rituals and points of connection are definitely needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Every day check in. And we try to check in with each other every day. I mean, it's not specific to grief, but it kind of is. I mean, that's kind of the elephant in the room every single day. So when we check in with each other, we do it. We try to do it every day. I don't know that there's many days that we don't, but making it
unless I'm being mad.
Yeah. And
I
realized too, I used to get really defensive. I still do sometimes. I'm trying to learn how to give her the space to be angry and be upset with me, without making her wrong for feeling that way. Because I don't necessarily agree with what her version of events. I don't agree with. We could be at the same place at the same time, and something could happen, and we don't agree on what happened. So, but I don't have to negate her experience. I can be there for her experience, even if I'm the target of it. At least to give her someone, to give her a safe place to express that emotion. Does that make sense? And so I'm trying to get better at that. I'm not great at it, but I'm trying to get better. And I think that's been helpful. I have seen that the silent treatment lasts sometimes hours instead of days.
That's true. It's true.
So,
He's right. It's decreased.
Well, good.
And what he's saying, it would be hurtful and challenging for any human to get dumped on and take it with grace. So that is a human thing. But for me and him, I'm like, this distress is directly your fault. So I'm not trying to jump on you, but I need to see changes and positive changes. And he has been making a lot of those. He doesn't work nearly as much as he used to. And like before, we would just take maybe one vacation because he's like, I got to work. He's on commission. But like this year, he's taken 3 or 4.
Nice.
He's really being more intentional about spending time with the family and just being present. So he is trying. It's very hard. Like he said, he's 47 years old to try to become this new present, intentional, supportive, sensitive guy. So I get it. And I'm a little saucy. I'm a little spicy. So.
Well, and we all have things from when, past or whatever that have weeded into or became part of who we are and why we are how we are. And as long as we're working on it to change it, and we just need to be aware of it. Mm-hmm. Awareness is so important.
Number one.
And I think you both have gained a little awareness here of each other, what's going on, and continue to work on that. And you'll notice I did not, because this is kind of part of my coaching, is using the word try. It's not the best word to say, because try leaves room for failure. And so I'll encourage you on this episode, for the listeners too, to avoid using the word try.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. Yeah. How about just changing that to something else? Like,
nothing.
We are working hard on this. I am working towards this.
Yeah, the goal is still fuzzy, and I am a realist and I'm direct, and so this is where we're trying. Many times 4 steps.
You're doing it.
And 3 back. No, I'm going to keep using that word until the goal is defined. So,
all right.
More work to our end.
Yeah. And it's good for the listeners to hear that there's always more work.
I forget though. Josh doesn't use trying though. He used areas of improvement, and he uses all those language that you use to reframe.
I love it.
Things. And that is who he is as a person. And
I love it.
Nope, it's 4 forward and 3 back. So still got room.
I love the reframing. I love all of that. So Josh and I are on the same page with that. For sure.
In every situation.
So as we conclude this episode, which we could dive really deep into some other things, and we'll have to do that another day, what would be from each one of you, Josh for the men and LaWayna for the women? This is an episode about bereaved parents. What would you leave?
Very quickly, I'm going to say for the women, for me, I know any woman would be like, how is she staying with this guy who did this thing? My husband is a human being and it was an accident. But for women, I would say for me, it was very important that as long as he was trying, then I was going to be here. Long as we were working on things, to use Teresa's word, and working on our areas of improvement, Josh, then I was like, okay, I can do this. And I knew when we met, he told me he had been to treatment and all of that. And what that said to me was, if things get hard, he will always work on it, is what it showed me. I didn't shrink away from the hard parts of his journey. And he didn't with mine as well. So in my mind, we both were just work in progress, And we're never going to hit that mark till we're on the other side of this thing. So if they're trying, then you try to, and work on it together.
Yeah.
Are part of a club that we don't want to be part of, but we're not alone. And it's there's a lot of men out there that are going through the same thing. And I've discovered some of them that I already knew, that I had no idea until this happened. And people will reveal themselves to you when you're open about what you're going through. And they will give you advice and tips on how to go through the struggles that they've already gone through. And so there's a certain seduction to wanting to stay in that grief and use it as an excuse for whatever reason. And if that's not what you're trying to do, if that's a place where you're trying to leave, if you're trying to figure out how to deal with it, then I would say support is invaluable. getting ideas and from people who know what you're going through is invaluable. So that's what I
Good. I love that. I love that. Talk to somebody that has experienced what you're experiencing now, that has worked through some things that maybe you're struggling with right now, and follow. To talk about going through a minefield, follow somebody, step where they step, do what they do is really important. So I want to thank you really both so much for coming on and sharing this episode, being vulnerable, being open, being truthful, so that you can support and help other couples, helping them through difficult times. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Female Voices Life and Loss. We hope today's conversation brought you comfort, insight, and a sense of community. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might need it. Stay connected, stay resilient, and until next time, keep growing and healing.